So now it kind of begs the question, right? You take that very intimate, just like
Personal.
personal, very deep rooted, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Act of
Probably no
evil.
word for it. Yeah, it's probably doesn't even do it. Whatever. But like you take that and then you take someone on the other end of the spectrum, the Stalins, the Hitlers, the whoever's, that have murdered the Genghis Khans, that murders like 11% of the world's population, right? These people like that. What's more evil? What do you guys think? What, like, Jay Hoshi, what are you guys' like first immediate thoughts that come to your head when that question gets posed?
My first thought was, how do you compare the evils? Like, it's almost like, I know there's like a time you get, for example, for murder, a time you get for sexual assault, all these things according to law, but it's very subjective, like what people go through, and I don't know, like I just don't feel like you can compare evils. So in that sense, murder to sexual assault, and then also on scales as well. That's just the immediate thought. Like, how do you compare an evil? Like, what is evil to someone else? What is evil? Like, I don't know. It's a weird one.
Yeah, I don't think you can just look at numbers and say, well, this person killed more, so they're worse, because you're kind of dehumanizing what that person's death means then, or whatever the crime was, right? But I think you can safely say it's like someone can be equally as bad if they did a bad thing to one person as someone else did a bad thing to 10,000 people.
100% agree. Yeah.
If, yeah, and especially when you look at the reasons for why they did that thing, right? Like it comes back to the conversation of sociopathy versus
Psychopathy.
psychopathy. The idea of like someone having zero emotional conscious, so they're just like, I know this thing is bad, but I don't care, so I'm going to do it anyway. And someone else, and that person being like meticulous, like planning things, being like, oh, I know this is bad, but whatever, I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to manipulate people and I'm going to get what I want because I don't care about that person's life. And someone else just not knowing the difference between right and wrong, just doing something bad because they don't know that it's bad.
Because you could
This
take
is Jay
something
trying to
that
throw us off his psychopath
psychopathic tendencies.
Jeffrey J. Dahmer.
Jeffrey J. Dahmer. So because you can, exactly like what you said there, Jay, to piggyback off that, you can take what, for example, Hitler did, right? And you could say, but he was doing it because he wanted to take over the world, right? And he thought that these people were in his way, so on and so forth. And he thought getting rid of them would provide him with more power, so on and so forth. While on the other side of the spectrum, you have someone like fritzl who is just doing it for pure pleasure, right? So that kind of draws like separations behind it as well, because that's what you're saying. Like, what's the reason behind doing it? And that might be the like not even the deciding factor. That might be like the only factor, because I'm on the same page where it doesn't matter if it's 60 million or if it's one person. It's like the motive behind it, and what you actually did, and you got to draw in the line. You got to draw a line in the sand to say for how long. Doing it for one day perhaps is definitely very different from doing it for 24 years or whatever it was. So I feel like that is an important factor as well, because for me, when I look at, like, again, we're just using these two examples here, right? This like on the extreme ends of the spectrum of mass versus that intimacy sort of factor. For me, I feel like fritzl is just like more evil, because assuming that the mass killings is done for political gain, I feel like it's not the same, because it's not as sadistic. I feel like it's a means to an end on the spectrum side of mass killings, because you're just like killing the people who are in your way to become king of the world, rather than just hurting someone because you like hurting them. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Mm. This is the thing, right? So the scale question is interesting because, like, killing, like, they like it's always said in media, and killing one person that's the hardest thing. After you kill the first person, it's a lot easier, right? So if that first kill is that intimate, or that first act is that intimate, it just brings to question, like, yeah, that's that 1 versus 60,000 example. But the thing with the whole, like, I'm not gonna say, actually. I was gonna say something and it's gonna sound like I'm defending Fritzl, but I'm not. But
Nah,
like,
say it.
he you're saying pleasure, but at least from the quotes, well, he saw himself as a born big R word. I don't know if it's like pleasure thing. It's a much more of a survival thing, right? And like Hitler was also kind of like a survival aspect, because it was the survival of Germany. It's just the survival of Germany and the prospering of Germany. So like both of them come from a similar kind of standpoint, I would say first. It's just that both Austrian. That's it.
That's it.
Maybe both are artists.
Yeah, maybe. But like,
dark humor,
what was I gonna say?
That's
There was.
I would disagree. I wouldn't say survival. I'd say they both got pleasure from doing different things. Even if, like, even if he said I was born to do X, Y, Z, he still got a power trip from controlling, which was his pleasure.
100%.
And Hitler got pleasure from gaining land. Like, he wanted to take over the world. That was his pleasure.
And meth, but yeah, sorry.
Oh yeah,
I didn't even know that.
But
to that quote, by the way, I don't know if Jay and Hosh, you guys read into it, but Fritzl said that he was born to do that, and he was like, I've held myself back a lot. I didn't do nearly as much as I could have. Just deep that for a second. Brother, you did it for 20 plus years, and he still has the sociopathic nature, bent, twisted mind to come out and say something like that when he didn't go against the sentencing. He accepted it. He pleaded guilty as well. So to say that when you're pleading guilty,
did you have a choice?
Well, you'd probably think someone like that probably does say not guilty if they did all that in the first place. But he that's an interesting case, because I feel like a lot of people would say, I'm not guilty, fight it off, blah, 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 change the sentence, so on and so forth, like Ted Bundy's, etc. Again, there is a difference between the Ted Bundy type of people and let's say Fritzl, right? But to still come out and say that, despite what you have done, again, is another sick and twisted sense of morality, because you gave yourself up. You admitted your wrongs. It's just all over the place, isn't it?
He did so without actually thinking it was bad.
Yeah,
that's why he's never come back from it, right? He's always, even in prison, he's like, he shows no remorse. Even after that quote, he said, what was it? He said, I think it was something, I'm paraphrasing, but it was like, you can go look in other people's basements and you'll see other wives and children.
See, this is what I'm saying. That's why I'm glad you brought up that. I'm glad you brought that, because
this just makes me angry, bro. I can't lie to you, fam. This whole
it makes me really upset. I can't lie, it doesn't make me angry, but this is why I said the evil act that I assimilate is with a lack of empathy, because every way you can define it, most acts, actually, I won't say every, I'm not going to completely generalize, but like what they tend to do when you kill someone, abuse somebody, is like, you obviously don't recognize your victim on the same level playing ground as yourself, right? Because you have that lack of empathy. To me, I hate to break it down so simply, because it's coming from a bit of a privileged aspect, but like, to me, the Elizabeth thing is horrific, which, by the way, when you deep this, she could have been given a life sentence and she still would have been let free earlier than what she was in captivity. By the way, when you deep it like that, also is nuts. But by the way, Fritzl's out on parole next year, so don't know if he'll make it though.
He's eligible.
That's how this whole conversation started.
He's eligible.
Sorry.
I thought he was still in the psychiatric hospital.
No, I think he's just incarcerated.
Yeah, but his parole. Yeah.
But how did
he was going to get moved, right? He was going to get moved to a normal prison, and then they blocked it so that he didn't have access to parole.
I don't know. I read that he was
because normally rapists and pedophiles get killed, bro.
He would have been eligible for parole if the move took place, but it didn't. So unless he's moved since.
It's a great question, Oshu. I don't know how either, to be honest.
Maybe it's different in German prisons and Austrian prisons, Oshu.
Well, they don't have, like, what's it called? Jail justice? What's the term?
There's jail justice everywhere, bro. There's 100% jail justice everywhere. I'm surprised.
I think Jay, they said he was set to be released and from a psychiatric to a regular to serve the rest of his sentence. They said he'll be eligible for parole in 2023 if he gets moved to that regular prison though. But I don't know if he has yet.
It did, from what I read, it got blocked.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Anyways,
I got a question for you lot. If you had to compare, like we're talking about, this is kind of going back to my point earlier about comparing the crime, because one is sexual assault and one is genocide. If there was a Hitler for sexual assault, in the sense that a guy was out there and he literally sexually assaulted
like a serial.
numbers, serial.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you said that, because that's what I was going to actually say before earlier when I said I didn't want to, the Elizabeth thing. Yeah, because me personally, murder is horrific, obviously, but like the most sinful act is like, the whole big R word to me personally, because there's a million different ways that murders tend to happen, right? You know what they normally say, it's the what is it, the
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So like, like murder, there's ways to cut around it, right? Like manslaughter, it's not, obviously there's different definition, but
There's
manslaughter, you still kill somebody. Yeah, there's only one way to cut the big R word. You know what I'm saying? Like there's only one intention. Everybody says it, and you can immediately gain the whole context of the situation.
Exactly.
Immediately, right? Because humans throughout the time and forever will do murder, whether it's justified, like holy war for religious land purposes, like different ways. So like, to answer your question, if there was like a serial, 100%, they start rank number one.
Probably. Well, if you want to speak about that, we talk about Chinggis, right? He killed 11%. He is one of the most, and people really do not realize what he did. He's put down as one of the greatest leaders and generals, but it's really been just lost somewhere in translation over the time. But he is horrific. Like he didn't just, you get someone like Alexander the Great from what we know, he just conquered his way through the places in a not so barbaric way, from what I've seen at least. Happy to be corrected. But someone like Chinggis, he killed about 60 million of the world, 11% of the population at the time. But he didn't just kill them. He, big R word, did his way through every village. He cut their heads off and he stuck them on the end of spears and staked them into the ground, and that lined the roads up to his kingdoms, right? That's how he would do it. He pillaged, he ran through them, he set them on fire. He did it in the most barbaric ways possible. But then you also have other people as well, like you have people like Stalin, you have people like Vlad
Pol
the
Pot.
Impaler, Pol Pot as well, and you got people like Himmler and all that who related with Hitler and everything. But you got Leopold, for example, who went to the Congo and he did everything he did there and stuff like that. Who also did it. And you got Mao Zedong as well in China, who did this stuff that way too. So yeah, you have a lot of people who did it in very barbaric ways.
Yeah. So my question was essentially, the reason why I'm saying, like, obviously, as you said, Hamza, people like Genghis Khan or whatever, he's obviously technically a serial rapist in that sense.
3%, I think, by the way. 3% of Asians still have his genes or something like that.
Have his DNA and
I think it's the world. I don't think it's Asia. I think it's the world.
I thought it was the Middle East. But
to be fair, Asia is a lot of the world.
But the question I'm trying to say is, like, we've seen one case well documented and a very, very deep dive because everything got found out. But would you say, just because Genghis Khan is kind of going back to Jay's fact as well, Jay's stat, is Genghis Khan, his results, his violence and his sexual assault and everything is a statistic. But what we're seeing with fritzl is a well documented case. But all of those cases that Genghis Khan had, that each individual person there is also a case that we just don't know about. So he like, what I'm trying to say is, like, how do you? I feel like it's almost incomparable because everyone's pain is their own. You know what I'm trying to say? Even though Genghis done more, it's more from the aspect of the victim rather than the perpetrator. But the perpetrator is already fucked. I feel like you can line them up together, like Genghis Khan and Fritzl, and both say you're evil, and that's that.
Yeah,
But then it's just hard to like quantify pain.
yeah.
But I don't know.
Because then you still have people like who were part of Hitler's regime, who like Joseph. I don't know why. If your name Joseph out there, bro, change your name. This is Joseph with an F though. It's different. But Joseph.
I ain't never seen it spelled like that before, you know.
Same.
It's
Same.
obviously the
Joseph.
German Austrian way of doing it. innit?
Joseph.
Mengele or whatever, who was like, he's the one who did all the surgeries and operations and
Yeah, the
experiments on
Nazi
all the
camps.
kids and twins.
Oh, I
and stuff
killed them
at the
in,
Nazi camp and stuff like that.
Was
Mhm.
never mind.
What would you say?
Jay knows that. I killed him
Let's
in
move on.
Let's move
But
on.
you killed him
Yeah,
in a
he's
game.
fucked up as well.
Sorry, did I kill
You
Hitler
killed him in a
game?
game, Joseph.
In
Yeah,
the game,
him.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay. But I was a bit confused though. But yeah. But yeah. So he did like. I mean,
That's evil as well.
That is intimate, right?
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
like a subset of Hitler, right? And I don't know, man. You're right. It is inquantifiable, and it's not supposed to be quantified. That's the thing. That's not what we're posing here. That's not the questions that we're going through. We're not trying to, so to speak, get to an answer. Rather, we're posing the
Yeah.
question to see the views that come out of it, because everyone's definition is different. The same way, and everyone's mind is different. That's the same way why you have all of these different evil people who are evil for different reasons in different ways. It's all the same in that sense.
You know what's interesting is the glorification of Genghis Khan, though. It is kind of funny because Holmes, you're right.
Fantasized.
He
It's
is kind of
mad.
fantasized because, like nobody ever seems to put him on the list with the Stalin or a Hitler or even a Vlad. I don't know, like they do, but then they also like almost admire the fact that he conquered all of Asia at the same time. Like it's a
probably because
weird
of
one.
when he did it.
Yeah, it's more
It was
recent.
it was
Hitler
it was
and
the
all them
time
lot.
of
It's true.
conquerors. Do you know what I mean? It was that
Yeah,
was
I
the
hear that.
way Alexander, Genghis, Nebuchadnezzar, all these different people over time. You're conquering land. You know what I mean? It's Roman
sure.
Empire. I'm sure Roman Empire, did their way through everyone. Pretty much most, if not all. There's very few leaders in history who went around war and conquering and everything like that in a manner which was actually humane, so to speak. I don't know, you put count them on two hands, you know what I mean? So
I mean, they still don't do it, bro. Look at USA. It's the
Mm.
modern day.
yeah,
Empire.
put Bush on
Sleepy
the list.
Joe, make his way through everyone.
Sleepy Joe, dude,
Bruv, he'd break a hip, bruv. He needs hip
Sleepy
surgery.
Was
Joe.
Genghis? Am I thinking of someone else? But was Genghis the one that used to use his daughters to like seduce leaders and then send
Yeah.
them to battle so they
Yeah.
die?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
this is what he used
yeah.
to do. He used to, if I remember correctly, he used to get his daughters to basically get with like the enemies, kings or whatever, and then basically like infiltrate them through the inside and basically like lower the defenses. So man just turns up on the doorstep like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeet.
Genius. Trojan
There is
horse,
genius, evil
Master of
genius,
war.
right?
bro. Yeah, evil genius.
Evil genius.
Dr.
But,
Doofenshmirtz.
but
Do you think it's evil? Okay, let's say someone is a serial killer, right? They go and kill, let's say 200 people. Do you think they're evil if those 200 people were all people that had done bad things?
You're talking about the
why you gotta
Punisher.
pose that?
You just described Punisher, bro. This is my realm. Hold on, let me take that.
He whips out more a comedy.
Yeah. Oh, look, you all sick. No. It depends on the acts, innit? I mean, that person is still wrong. That person is still wrong. I 100% think
Are they wrong,
that
though?
individual's still evil. Yeah, they
But
are.
you can be
Because- and the
bad and
reason I
not
put-
evil.
The reason I pose that, are they still evil, is because you're
Yeah, 'cause they're
judging them
hypocrite,
by
bro.
the society that you live in today, by your laws and thingies. If you were around in the time of Chinggis, you would say that's how we deal punishment around here. And who's to say that your version of justice in today's society is correct?
Correct.
Right? Because the reality is USA are going around, or many other countries, if not all countries or whatever in any shape or form, are going around dealing justice as they see fit, and they get by it, and they're allowed to do it in today's society. Because although we can sit here in our own individualistic realizations and like definitions of justice say that, oh, that's wrong from a NATO perspective, from a worldwide perspective, from a UN perspective, they're cool to go ahead with it and they're cool to do it and it's not an issue. But if you look back in history, all throughout time, there's been different versions of justice, different versions of rules and regulations and laws, not only in the same place at the same time, but around the world at the same place at the same time. So who's to say that, you know what I mean? But that,
Yeah,
that
but
links to the
like,
entire
Do you
conversation, what
believe
we're
in the
saying
death
today as well.
sentence, my son?
no,
You
no,
don't? Okay.
no. But like, I mean, I'm just saying. Okay, maybe evil is not the correct word, but that guy is still wrong. Like if the
Yeah, I'm
Punisher
just posing the
starts
question,
flipping,
yeah.
if the Punisher starts shooting up some guys who are taking weed or heroin, bro. Like, excuse me.
Okay, but what if the 100 people that he's killed are all rapists
Yeah. So like, he's still wrong though, isn't it?
for
Like, it's
taking a
not.
life?
It's not his. It's not his
It's not
right.
his decision to make.
Yeah, it's not his decision to make.
But do you think that comes from like, this is kind of diverting off, but do you think that's a religious thing?
What if the government says go do it, kill all the rapists?
Then he's an executioner. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
Then he's evil.
is he evil? No.
Well, Elias,
but-
carrying asking that same question again under this
yeah,
context.
he's
now.
not evil. He's
Right.
not evil, but the act is still wrong, right? Because it's not
Okay.
his. Like the government, it just furthers your point. The
Yeah, yeah.
government will literally change in 4 years, and then the
Yeah,
other government
exactly.
might come to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Like, that's
literally,
inconsequential.
like
Literally,
4
bro. The Green
years,
Party
yeah.
could come in and tell them, "No, hold on, what are you doing?" No, like it's inconsequential.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like I'm just saying that act is wrong because this is the. I made the joke about Punisher, but this is the age-old story of like, why doesn't Batman just kill the Joker? Right? It's a fine line, isn't it? It's a fine
Because
line.
that's what die a hero, live long enough
Yeah,
to see
exactly.
himself become the villain. Like if
Yeah,
you, that is what so to speak, that is what separates you from those who are evil. Is the act
Exactly.
of killing in the sense of Batman, right?
Yeah.
So,
I respect that.
and you're right, Harshu. Coming back to what you said about religion,
taking
yeah. Well, I think that
Yeah.
is a big factor as well. Like, yeah, that is a massive factor in what has shaped the judicial system that we have in the world today. It's all derived from religion, and then has taken different paths in different ways depending on where you are in different parts of the world. So, and different religions, although they might, let's say for example Abrahamic, right, the biggest, some of the biggest in the world. Even within them, there's many similarities, but there's still many differences. And then
100%.
although a country can claim to use that religious foundation for their laws, it can still be perverted and twisted however they deem fit, because humans, power, control, greed, so on and so forth.